scary when they start managing, right? That front end.
Yeah, he's got the.
My name is Franklin Sanders, and I live in, actually, there is a place, if you get the Tennessee Gazetteer, there's a place called Dogwood Mud Hole. It's not really a town, it's not even a village, it's just a place right off of the Natchez Trace. And my family and I've been in the gold and silver business since 1980. And I've published this newsletter since that time. I brought samples. You're welcome to take one. Especially, I recommend that you get this one right here because it has some of the things that I'll be talking about tonight in it. And so I wrote this is the story of our move to the land, and we were not farmers. We were people who had grown up in the city. And this is about the animals that we killed, the mistakes that we made, the dumb things that we did, the ways we nearly killed ourselves. And anyway, these are kind of monthly reports over that period from beginning a little before we moved. This is the second volume, and usually they're $23.95 a piece. If you want to buy one tonight, they're $20 a volume, or you can get both for $30. So, and I'm told that they're pretty funny.
I never read them.
Do what?
You never read them.
No, I never read it myself. They're just about 8 times. I have.
Franklin, can you talk a little bit louder?
Sure.
It's a little hard to hear back here.
I have 7 children, and in 1999 we moved from Memphis, where my wife and I both grew up, to Middle Tennessee. We bought a farm there, and not all of my children were married then. Some of them are still at home, but now 5 of those 7 children live around us. 4 of them work in the same business with us. One has a business of his own there. And so maybe that'll give you an idea that we've tried to do something different. We've tried to do what we wanted to do and what we felt like was good for us and for our family. And so I'd like to talk to you tonight. Really, there's sort of 3 different things that I want to cover, 3 different ideas I want to leave you with, so you can take those away and put those to work in your own life. And the first thing is the difference between our sphere of concern and our sphere of control. So I want to talk to you just a little bit about that. The next thing I want you to do is turn off your cell phones. That's the hard way to learn, isn't it? Anyway, if you would, turn off your cell phones. It might wake up the speaker if you do. Anyway, the second thing I want to talk to you about is where we are in time. Where we are in time. And I want to try to explain to you that there are large trends in human history, and those trends continue. Once they begin, they continue for a long time, and then they change. And when they change everything because they're so fundamental to the way people think and act and the way society is organized. And then the third thing I'd like to talk to you about is the centralization of the American economy, and which has meant the death of local economies, and give you some ideas about how we might revive local economies, especially your local economy. Because I think that there's certain things that are happening today that have not happened for well over 100 years, and they're reversing trends that that fit into this centralization. So those are the 3 sort of areas that I want you to think about tonight. The first thing I said was the difference between your sphere of concern and your sphere of control. Now, some of the things that I tell you tonight may be obvious, but they're not obvious enough that it hasn't taken me many years to figure them out, and this is one of the big ones, because I've spent a lot of years beating my head against the wall in various causes, and just about, in some cases, cost me my life and my family. I'm very serious when I say that. And so I've learned the hard way that there's a difference between your sphere of concern and your sphere of control. Your sphere of concern may be the whole country. And since y'all are connected with the Tea Party, I'm sure you're worried about the things that are happening in Washington, D.C. And if you're like a lot of people, you look around you in the United States and you say, this country's gone crazy. It's nuts. The things that I see around me are completely lunatic. And we can't continue with this sort of government policy, and specifically the spending, the money creation, all of those things. This can't go on. We've reached a point where the crises, and there are always crises in the fiat money system, but it's not just the fiat money, it's all a system, which is one of the things I'd like for you to understand. If we could just stop the spending tomorrow, people say, if we could just stop the spending tomorrow, stop that federal government spending, cut it back, we'd be okay. No, you wouldn't. Listen, how much in Tennessee, how much of the GDP of the state of Tennessee do you think comes from government spending? All federal government spending and state and local government spending. Over 50%. Over 50% of the income in the state of Tennessee comes from federal and state and local government spending. About 30% from federal spending, about 20% from state and local government spending. So you're going to stop the spending overnight? Fine. What are you going to do with those over 50% of the people who draw their income from government spending? What are you going to do with the Social Security people? What about them? They were promised all their life. They paid into that system. They were promised they were going to get that money back. And there are some places in the United States, probably some places in your county, where 2/3 of the people, where the people over 65 depend on that wholly for their income on Social Security. So you see the problem. I mean, it's not just one thing we can fix, it's an entire system that's all out of kilter. I mean, I don't know in your county in particular where the government money comes from, but you've got agriculture depends on subsidies. You've got the welfare part is this kind of the smaller part of it. The whole healthcare system has been hijacked by government control, and you're going to have to pay more for that, because remember, when you add a layer of government to it, you always add money. So what I'm saying is there are all these bad things going on, and even the people who are in favor of these things know that they're huge problems, and that's your sphere of concern. Those are the things that you are concerned about. Those are not the things that you control. You have, with all due respect, you have zero influence in Washington, D.C. Zero. You can write letters and emails until your fingers bleed, and that you got zero influence. That's the way it is. They got scared when a bunch of Tea Party people showed up in Washington, and then they got busy co-opting the Tea Party, that is, taking over the Tea Party so they could pull the fangs of it. And that's the way the system is. It just takes every opposition into itself. It co-opts that opposition. So you have this sphere of concern, but you can't do anything about it. But you can spend huge amounts of energy, and not just writing letters and going to meetings and stuff like that, but it's psychic energy. It's creative energy that you might spend on something else that you're spending on this sphere of concern, and it's not going to have any results. So the thing that I've kind of learned over the course of my life is you're better off to concentrate on your sphere of control. What do I mean by sphere of control? Listen, in my family, I've got a lot of influence. Believe it or not, I've got a whole lot of influence. And if I don't like the way things are working in my family, I can make changes. And I can make them tomorrow morning if I want to do it. Right? And y'all are probably all nodding your heads because you do this the same way at your house. If something's not the way you want, you can make a change. And if you have a business and you want to make a change, you can make a change in that business. Or if you work for somebody else and you see something that needs to be changed, you can go in and you can talk to the people who own the business, and you can say, well, we need to change this and that and make it more efficient. They may listen to you. And it may be that if you know enough people, that you've got some influence in your community. Maybe in your city, this is, Paris is about 10,000 people, so that's really a pretty good sized community, and the kind of community, the size of community where you can have a lot of influence on the people around you. So maybe you could get somebody, your neighbors, to listen to you about changes you think need to be made. Maybe you can get somebody on the city council or the county, I don't know what form of government y'all have here, but
County commission.
county commission, maybe you get somebody in the county commission to listen to you, and you could really make changes here. And it might be, you might know somebody up in Nashville, and believe it or not, there are some really fine state legislators in Nashville. Really, really fine state legislators. And we have accomplished more up there in the last few years than I could ever hope to see accomplished in Washington, D.C. Now, do y'all understand the difference between sphere of concern and sphere of control? I'm not saying give up. I'm saying use the best leverage that you have. And the place where you have the most leverage is the place where you have control, in your own community. And you can, I mean, think about it this way. If you could solve some of these problems that plague the nation right here in Henry County, for you, they'd be solved, wouldn't they? And not only would they be solved for you in your life, maybe somebody in the next county or two counties over might see what you've done and copy it or apply it there and make those same changes. See? So you've got a lot more leverage in your sphere of control than you have in your sphere of concern. That's, I didn't get that backwards, did I? Yeah, that's right. Sphere of concern is up there in DC where you can't really change anything. Sphere of control is right here where you